It just won't end this year. Hey everybody! Well, I have too many projects going on around the house to put out a recipe video this week, but I thought I'd share with you what I've got going on, and that is to build this as seen all over the internet cloud light assembly down here in my basement. Now, I did mine a little different than you'll see online, so let me show you what I did and then stick around for the end and we'll test this thing out. I've seen a lot of these projects where they build the fixture and attach it directly to the ceiling with either staples or glue, but I want my fixture to be removable in case it gets infested with vermin, or maybe I just want to move it to another room. So I'm using these 4x8 fencing panels, and they're pretty lightweight, and they've got a lot of points here where I can attach some hanging hardware, some hooks or some chains or whatever I need. I'll figure that out when I get there. And this stuff is also nice and easy to cut with, of course, with an angle grinder, but even with a hacksaw. If you need to cut these down to size, it's no problem. But these gaps here are a little bigger than I want for attaching all the polyfill. So the first thing I'm going to do is to cover this all up with this lightweight plastic mesh. And this is just some garden fencing, and I'll use some cable ties to cover up the panels completely with this, and that'll give me plenty of surface area for attaching the lights and the polyfill. Here's a little quick tip for you when you're using cable ties through something like this and you want to go under it and then back through, but maybe you can't quite reach it down there. Take another one of your cable ties, just make a little loop at the end, stick that through your target spot, then run your cable tie through the loop on the end of there and whip it right through, like sewing. Tip number 2, the edges of these cable ties is sharp, so wrap it up. Alright, there's my first panel done. I think I used about 100 of these little cable ties on there, but they're the smallest ones, so they're super cheap. And I just put enough around there so I didn't get too much sag anywhere. Everything I attached to here is very light, so it's not going to pull down on this too much. And it's a free-form design, so a little bit of sag here and there is not going to make any difference. Now on to the fun stuff, and this is our cloud material. This is a polyester fiber filling, the same stuff they use in lots of stuffed toys. And this stuff is flame resistant, so it's a good choice for this project. Now let's take a look at the lights. These are some LED strip lights, and these ones are really cool because they change colors. They come with a remote, and there's also an app that you can download and run a lot of pre-programmed effects from your phone, and that is going to look sweet in our lighting array. And of course, because they are LEDs, they run very cool and use just a tiny bit of electricity. And I'll put links to all these materials down in the comments in case you want to find them. So let's take a look at what's in the box. So we got a lot of hangers. Probably not going to use those. Power supply. We've got some controls here. There is that remote. And we've got 2 rolls of strip lights. And I think, let me take a look here. These are 16 feet. Well, it's very easy. You've just got a plug on that end. It's going to plug right into this. 2 of them there. And I'll be able to control it from here. Alright, so I think I'm going to anchor these. Again, using more cable ties, I'm going to anchor these near what will be the center of the light fixture. And I can put the power supply right down the center then. There we go. Now our power supply could come down here. And now is when you get to play that jazz, because you can run these any which way you like. You can go straight down and back if you want, but I think you're going to get a lot cooler effect if you mix it up and do some zigzags and maybe some swirlies. Just play around with it until you get something that you like. I think I'm going to try and continue with my cable tie scheme here, in case someday I want to dismantle this and take everything apart. It'll still be like new. So when you're using this flat LED strip and you want to make a turn with it and go a different direction, what you want to do is secure it right at one point and then make kind of a loose little loop and then make your turn. That way you're not pinching it too tight and kinking it right there and potentially breaking those wires that are inside of there. Ooh. Now, I went back and forth in my head a bunch of times about how to attach the fluff to the mesh here, and I thought about using some more cable ties, and that would probably work, but it'd be really, really laborious. Now, a lot of the videos you see online, they're using either a spray adhesive, staples, or hot glue, and I don't think any of those are going to work very well on the mesh, so I'm going with a good old-fashioned contact cement. The stuff is really cheap. You can get a big old can of it for like $8, and it is strong. Just make sure you got good ventilation when you're using this stuff, because you might find yourself waking up in the hospital if you don't. So I'm going to be applying this with a paintbrush. I'll do a light coat on the mesh. I'm going to avoid hitting the actual light strips, because someday I might want to pull this apart and reuse those. And then normally you give it 15 to 20 minutes to set up before you apply whatever you're gluing. But I did a little test piece right here, and I just let that get tacky for about a minute, and this stuff is stuck on there really well. I think probably because we got good airflow on both sides of that. I'm just going to get a little bit of this on my brush and hit that mesh. I'll do this in zones. Yeah, it's going to be real messy. It's dripping through like crazy, but so I got my drop cloth down there. There we go. Got a nice ball of that. And now I'm just going to dab a little bit of that cement around here on the side that I'm going to lay down on the mesh. Now, press that right in there, starting right here on the corner. Give it a good hard press all around there. That should do. So I'm moving right along here. Things are looking pretty good, but I've learned a couple things on the way, so I want to pass those on to you. I just had to go get more contact cement, because applying them like this directly from the can onto the material, I got my glue so gummed up with polyfill that it was getting harder and harder to get out of there, and I actually went through way more glue than I needed to. So on this round, I'm going to pour it into a little cup and try some other methods of application. Maybe I'll try this little putty knife to dab it onto the fibers there. Real quick, another lesson just learned. Contact cement melts solo cups. I'm gonna go get me a paper bowl. There we go. Well, that was quite laborious. I used a bag and a half, so about 15 pounds of the polyfill and 2 big cans of contact cement. And now I'm going to let this sit out here for a while and dry and kind of degas while I go and prepare the hanging hardware. For mounting this, I'm just going to use some screw hooks And I'm going to attach some small lengths of chain and hang it from these S-hooks. Now this thing probably weighs around 30 pounds now, so I'm going to have to make sure I get my hooks up into the wood above the drywall. Well, there she is. Well, let me tell you, that was a bear to hang up there, but that's just because I'm all alone here today. If I'd had some helping hands, it'd have gone a lot easier. So I've got a little nipping and tucking to do here and there, but it's essentially done, and it looks pretty cool. So let's try this thing out. Oh. All right. That looks pretty cool. But we really got to see what it looks like with the lights out. Oh, yeah! Oh, that is super cool. I know these GoPros are really bad in low light conditions, but I assure you, I got the desired effect. This thing looks awesome. I could have saved a little money by going a little bit thinner on the poly there, and definitely could have figured out a more efficient way to glue it, but it came out pretty good, and it's pretty well constructed. I don't think it's going to be dropping any big chunks of that poly on the floor anytime soon. So there it is. Now let's take a look at the total cost of this build.